Tom here from FlipAnything USA. So a lot of people ask me what to buy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of properties that I buy and flip to make money with. Just kind of the reasoning that goes in, my mind when I think about things. So when it comes to what to buy, you can buy anything. Houses, duplexes, land, commercial buildings, industrial buildings. Anything that you can buy at a deal and you can turn for a profit. Now, I'm at a stage in my investing that I buy and hold a lot of stuff. But when it comes to houses and things, houses are kind of an emotional purchase. When people look at a house to buy, the husband might picture himself in the garage making something, and the wife, raising the kids and looking in the backyard, and everybody does that. So on a house, if you're just buying to flip it, that's great. Buy it to flip it to make money. But if you end up holding, then you're kind of becoming a speculator. Now, of course, there's hedges against things like that. If you're buying a home for yourself to live in, then you can afford to say, okay, well, if things go down a little bit, it doesn't matter. I got to have a place to live anyways. But the key is you always got to buy more than one. You got to buy at least two, one to sell later on. On houses, as long as you're buying it under market, you can flip it. That's anything. So what to buy, you can buy anything. The deal with houses is if you hold them, they can go down in value because, interest rates, if they go up. If interest rates go up, it costs more for somebody to get a loan to buy a house. People are not how much, they're usually how much a month. And so they base their purchase on what they can afford monthly. So interest rates can really affect a flipper because if they go up on you, and they don't go up that fast, but if you hold them long enough, the interest rates can get pretty high, and you're not going to be able to sell it for what you paid for it. So, but don't let that scare you, because things don't move that fast. As long as you do your homework and you're buying stuff for, 70 cents on the dollar or less, you're going to be able to turn it. And even if things start to creep down, you'll make 15 or 20% instead of 30%. No big deal. Interest rates can affect all properties, okay? Everybody usually gets a loan. Everybody's affected by a monthly payment. But what I like about, say, commercial properties or industrial properties, it's supposed to be an N, offices, I have a lot of offices, they're very stable, and they're stable, and so I buy those properties generally, and I've flipped them before, but generally I buy those properties for income, okay? So my hedge is, even if interest rates go up, okay, that just means I can't sell it. But that's okay because I'm getting an income, so that's my hedge against, interest rates going up. I've got an income coming in from these properties that I'm not going to really be affected. I'm just going to keep this property and collect the money. On income, now you got the same thing. One of the things with houses is if interest rates go down, you can make more money because, again, people are how much a month. So if interest rates go down, you can actually ask more for your house, and the payment would be the same today as it was, for say $350,000. If I bought something for $350,000, maybe the price would be the same today as it was 6 months earlier when it was $300,000. Just because the interest rates went down, so the payment's the same, but I'm going to sell it for more money. When it comes to what to buy, you can buy anything. You just got to buy it at a deal, okay? So always remember that. Now let's talk about looking for properties and staying focused. Very important that you get educated. I tell people, you got to know deals. You got to know what a deal is when you see one, because if you hesitate, you're going to lose it, and somebody else is going to get it. It's very important that, you look around your neighborhood, you look at houses that are for sale, but also call on things that are for rent so you know how much they rent for, especially if you plan on, holding to keep that way. Or maybe you're just going to try to explain to somebody why this is a good deal that you're selling them and what kind of rents they can get. You need to know your neighborhood. And now I'm not talking about just residential. It could be, commercial property and that sort of thing, because, there's small commercial buildings and industrial buildings and all kinds of different properties. And if you know what they rent for per foot, and then you'll kind of be able to know what the rents are going to be if you're buying an empty one anyways. And a lot of times the distressed stuff, it is empty. Know your properties, and also, when you do begin to buy to hold, you want to consider, and this is something I consider all the time, is like I used to own a lot of apartments. I sold most of my apartments. because, here's an apartment, let's say. Here's an apartment building, right? Okay, many units. Let's just say that's looking at the top. You've got, 2 bathrooms in each of these, 2 toilets. You've got carpeting. You've got all these things that potentially are going to be a problem. Clogs, replacing a toilet handle and chain or plunger, backups. I had somebody flush a towel down a toilet one time. It backed up and it flooded like 7 units downstairs. And because there was, it was effluent. So, there was nasty stuff in there. And so I had to replace all the carpet in all 7 units. And then guess what? It happened again. Holding property, there can be some risk with that, and there can be some expenses with that. I'm not trying to discourage you. I made a lot of money on my apartment rentals and everything else. The rents probably tripled in the time that I owned them. What I'm getting at is things to consider. Now, let's just say that was $1 million apartment building, okay, or $100,000. It doesn't matter. Well, now let's say it's the same thing, but it was an industrial property. Okay, so here's an industrial property. There's one little toilet, let's say, in 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. I might have 8 toilets in the same square footage on an apartment building. So low maintenance. This is industrial, commercial. I'm going to put that here, industrial, commercial, low maintenance, okay? Maybe 1 toilet per 2,000 or 3,000 square feet, maybe even less sometimes. Outdoors, let's just say here's the street. There's probably a little tiny patch of grass. And then this is all sidewalk. And this is all parking. There's very little upkeep. I've got a little tiny patch of grass to mow here. And that's it. And then blow the parking lot off once in a while. So very low maintenance. Here's the other thing you want to look at. You want to look at what kind of rents are you getting. Well, on a lot of my buildings, I'm getting, $1 to $2 per foot, okay? And I'm paying less per foot for these buildings than I am for a house that doesn't even bring me half that per month. So houses as rentals, they're really pretty terrible. And that goes back to the fact that people, those are an emotionally driven purchase. So people, I got to live in this neighborhood, my kids got to go to this school, and I can afford X per month. So that's all that matters. What can I afford? And then they make their decision to buy in that area based on that. And then, so, properties could be $1 million. The rentals might rent for, $3,000 or $4,000 a month for, say, $1 million home. Where if I had $1 million commercial building or $1 million industrial building, I'm going to get $10,000 a month. So I'm going to get, on average, a 10% return on rent, where with a house I might get closer to a 4% return on the overall value of the property. So houses don't really pencil for rentals for me, but they are great if I can buy it under market and just resell it. I don't like to hold, unless there's a special reason you think you need to hold on to the property. There are some instances where values will go up in a neighborhood. They get rid of an airport, or, they tear down some eyesore, and now all of a sudden the area is getting better. Likewise, they can bring in, a HUD project or something that isn't really good for a neighborhood. A lot of HUD projects come in, and you can just draw a circle around it, and there's more burglaries in those general areas. I would just say, know your neighborhood. Know not just residential, other properties, because it'll help you make a better decision. But the other thing is you'll know when you find a deal. You can just do the math in your head. But there's no reason to limit yourself to just, people say, what should I buy, duplexes or houses? Well, if you want to live in a house, buy a house. Some people think, I'm going to live in one side of a duplex or live in one unit and rent the other. Well, that's fine. You can do that. With multifamily properties, duplexes on up to, 30, 40, 100 units, at least those are, the values are based on math. In other words, I'm going to look at that and go, okay, that's worth, I want a 10% return on my money. That's going to determine the value of that property. And of course, that's going to take into account for how much is my loan costing me. So interest rates affect that still. Just kind of do the math on it, look at everything, and then, like I say, you'll get opportunities in different kinds of properties, and you'll know what to do when it comes up. You can sell it and make some money. So that's where I'm going to leave it for now. A lot of people like say they don't consider the upkeep. There's much more upkeep on a residential property than there is on like an industrial property, just because there's less carpet. Like I say, let's go back to that again. So on an industrial property or a commercial property, You know, the tenant usually, if they have carpet, if it's an office, they can pay for it, or commercial, they'll pay for it if they want, you know, specific colors and a theme in their store. But in industrial property or even a commercial property, there's just one bathroom and it's just a concrete floor. If they want to carpet it, they can carpet it. But so very little for you to do as a landlord, except for, you know, take care of one toilet and just the basic grounds, which aren't much because there's very little landscaping to do in general, much more usually with a residential type property. So that's it for now. I'll leave you with that, and just something to consider in deciding what you want to make your decision on when you buy. But look at everything, and like I say, just run the numbers on it, and it'll make a lot more sense. Please subscribe to my channel. Please share it with your friends and family. Again, I don't sell books. I'm not a I'm not a paid mentorship or anything like that. I'm just kind of laying a roadmap for my young boys to follow in a video blog, and always appreciate good questions, and I'll try to address them. And that's it. So, thank you.